I wanted to share with you guys a couple stories that just illustrate the power of encouragement. And I'm going to try and make this as short and sweet as possible, but I need to give you a little bit of the backstory for how I even decided to, excuse me, how I even decided to play with this experiment, see if it worked. I was at a business convention I don't know, maybe a couple years back, 1 or 2 years ago, and I was listening to a speaker called Gary Cornegay. Some of you listening to this might have heard of him, maybe you haven't. He's the author of a book called The Preacher's Kid. Good read, so you should check it out. But anyway, he was telling a story about these frogs. And so I'm going to tell you that story real quick so you can understand where it came from and why I tried what I tried. I'm sorry, I have a cold, but anyway, speed it up. So there were these frogs, and they were stuck in a bucket of water. And these frogs couldn't get out of this bucket of water. And above the bucket of water were a bunch of onlooking frogs, and these frogs in the bucket were swimming, and they were trying to get out of the bucket. They were trying to swim out, climb out to safety. And the frogs that were watching these frogs that were trying to get out of the bucket were chanting, screaming, you can't make it, you can't do it, you're never going to make it out of that bucket, you can't do it, you're not strong enough, you're going to drown, you can't do it, you get the gist. So the frogs around the bucket are discouraging the frogs in the bucket. One of the frogs makes it out of the bucket. I believe from the story, the other frogs died. Maybe they didn't, I don't know, but they ain't make it out the bucket. So the one frog made it out the bucket, and all the frogs that had been taunting them were like, oh man, how'd you make it out of that bucket? We just knew you weren't going to make it out of that bucket. I told you weren't going to make it out of that bucket. How'd you make it out of the bucket? And the frog that made it out of the bucket was like, what? Huh? That frog that made it out of the bucket was deaf. So that frog couldn't hear. All right. So that's that story. I'm sure you can tell what the moral of the story is, but that story provoked me to do something one day when I was on a field trip with my daughter. It was a field trip to a park, and at this park, you know what is it? Not a Ferris wheel. What am I can't remember. There was a toy that stood upright, had bars, and went around in a circle. And it was a circle. So imagine like monkey bars that could turn around in a circle, like a merry-go-round. It was similar to a merry-go-round, but it wasn't on the floor. So the kids had to hang on the bars, and it would swing around in a circle, but it was also angled. So it will kind of go up and then come down, but in a circle. So we started playing with the kids and putting them on the circle. And would push them around. We'd load it up. So there'd be like 6 kids on this thing. And we would just turn it. And they would swing and swing and swing. And one by one, they would start to fall off because they couldn't hold on. Eventually, it turned into a game. And whoever lasted the longest, the last man standing, was the winner. So it started to become a competition. There was one boy, we're going to call him Boy A, okay, who kept winning, constantly won, like champion status. He kept winning. So I'm like, wow, he's really got it going on. He's strong, right? And these are probably about second or third graders. And then there was boy B, and this is a true story. And then there was boy B, who he was tall, thin, kind of lanky, and he never won. He would always fall off either first or second. And I felt so bad for him because he kept trying and he kept trying, but he couldn't stay on past like being the second person. And so I just felt bad for him, and I was like, dang, let me see if just encouraging him helps. For some reason, I felt moved to encourage him because he just kept losing. So we loaded the kids up. It was about 6 kids on this little mini Ferris wheel. And we're spinning it and we're spinning it and they're falling. And I decided from the moment we started, I was going to coach him to stay on that bar and to see how long he would be able to stay on, or if it would even work at all. So they're swinging, and I'm just letting them know. I'm like, do not let go. You're going to win this time. Don't let go. Don't let go. Hold on tighter. And he was struggling, but everybody else fell off. And then it was just boy A and boy B. So it was the one who kept winning, and it was the one who kept losing. And I just kept getting louder and louder and louder. And I was consistent about telling him, you just got a little bit more time. Don't let go. And it wasn't easy for him. He struggled to hold on to that bar. He really did. But every time we got up and down that bar, he would grab on tighter. He would adjust his hands. You could see it in his face. He was struggling, but he wouldn't let go. And I told him not to let go. I made sure he understood that it's just going to be a little while longer. Boy A is not going to be able to hang in there that much longer. And he will be the last man standing if he just continues to hold on. I just kept telling him, you can do it. You can do it. Hold on tighter. Don't let go. Don't let go. And just with me encouraging him to not give up, he won, and it was amazing to me because I just did it to see if it will work. I didn't know whether it will work or not, but clearly it did. So it just goes to show you that the power of the mind is stronger than the power of the body, because you can have all the physical power you need. If your mind isn't right, your body's not going to follow. So I said all of that to say this. Today was my son's second football game. The first game that they played, they lost 0 to, I don't know, it might have been like 30 something. They got whooped on. What I noticed about the game, though, in general, were the crowd itself was not hype. Nobody was really encouraging the kids on his team and speaking life into them. Nobody was cheering. Nobody was chanting. The crowd was heavy because they seen that the kids were losing, so they felt like losers. It was just a bad environment altogether. And so I thought the second go round, and there were parents on the sidelines, mainly men, who were screaming, or not screaming, but yelling out plays, like defense, block, get low, you know what I mean? And that's all good because the kids need that too. They need to know what they need to do along with the coach telling them what they need to do. But what I noticed is everybody was working on technique. Everybody was working on things that were physical, things that they had to physically do, things that required their body, but nobody was focused on getting their mind back in the game after they were getting whooped on. So they were discouraged. They were scared. They were playing scared. You could just see it. They were hanging their heads low. At the end of that game, by the time they got done and they had their final huddle, damn near all the kids wanted to quit football because this was their first time and they got beat on. Coach had to tell them to pick their heads up, but they felt defeated inside. So this go round, when I went to the football game. I told myself that regardless of whether I felt foolish or not, you know what I mean, for yelling and screaming and hooting and hollering and probably being one of the only females who's like, yeah, go this, that, and the other. When honestly, I don't really know football like that, so I don't want to scream out defense when they're supposed to be blocking, you know. But I was like, regardless, I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to make sure to chant and encourage them. And before my son got in the game, I let him know before we got there, I said, look, I can't be with your team because I'm not the coach, but you could be with your team. So what I need you to do, if you feel or see that your teammates are getting down, you need to let them know that the game's not over. They can't quit fighting. They can't get down on themselves. And that you guys are going to keep pushing. You basically got to be the cheerleader of your team to make sure that their minds are right, since really there's not too many other people doing it. So he agreed to hold up his end of the bargain. And I agreed to hold up mine, which was to be the cheerleader in the crowds and see if I could get the crowd along with me to chant for the team and encourage them. So that's what I did. That's what he did. Now, the first half of the game, the score, let's see, they got whooped on the first half. So they scored one touchdown, and the score was 6-32, I believe it was 6-32 in the first half, and my son's team was losing. Okay, so they broke for halftime, and the last time there was halftime, I was like, I didn't feel right talking to the kids because I'm not the coach. But this go around, I'm like, I don't care. They need somebody in their ear to tell them that everything's going to be all right, that they can't give up, that they're not going to be tired, that they're going to play hard, and if the other team wins, they're not going to get an easy win. You know what I mean? So the whole time for this whole game, I'm yelling, don't give up, you're not tired, defense, protect your man. Let's see, what else? As many subliminals as I could possibly send to them, and I never, ever, ever stopped. And when I had a chance to talk to them during halftime while they were having their little snack, I wasn't afraid to talk to every single player and let them know that not only were they doing good, but that they can't give up and the game's not over. You know what I mean? And they shouldn't be scared. Don't hang your head low. You know, get out there and play to the very end. Don't be tired. You know what I mean? Play your position. And I hope this doesn't sound egotistical, but so they get in after the second half of the game. They get back in. I can tell they have a rejuvenated spirit. They start picking up pace, doing what they got to do. So if we fast forward, his team still didn't win, but they didn't give up. They didn't hang their heads down low, and the other team didn't have an easy win. They scored one more touchdown, so the other team won at 36 because his team made two bad plays. If he wouldn't have made those two bad plays, I'm pretty sure they would have either went into overtime or they could have won. But they didn't give up. They didn't make it easy for the other team to win. They never got tired. They kept positive, and at the end of that game, I made sure that when they all came out of the field and started to go home, that every single kid got a high five from me, got a pat on the back, and I let them know that they did a really great job. They didn't give them no easy win. They didn't get ran into the dirt, because the last game they played 0. They didn't score one time. So not one of them hung their head low. Not one of them had a frown on their face. Now, they still lost the game, but they never gave up. And they felt more confident because they knew that they didn't get whooped on. There was a point where they actually had the other team kind of scared, and they played off of that fear. Anyway, so I know that was a long story, but that's where I was coming from when I said the power of encouragement is amazing. I hope you can take what I said to heart and maybe use it in your own life. Love, peace, and hair grease from the juice. All right, y'all, have a good night.